Right, so get ready, because we are going on a journey, and this journey spans millennia. You guys have given us some awesome source material this time around,
Yeah.
all about, like the human need to believe in things,
Right.
especially when it comes to life after death.
Right.
We're diving into some excerpts from a book that looks at history, psychology, and even like cultural evolution.
It really does.
Talk about a grand tour.
Yeah, it's a pretty fascinating question.
Mhm.
Why are we humans, like across time and cultures, so drawn to, like kind of these elaborate belief systems, especially ones that deal with what happens after we die?
Exactly. And in this deep dive, we're on a mission to find out the reasons behind these beliefs.
Right.
Like, what needs do they fulfill and how are they shaping us, even today? We're going to start in a place that just screams afterlife obsession.
Okay.
Ancient Egypt's Valley of the Kings.
Yes, the Valley of the Kings. Even its location is super symbolic. It's right where the lush Nile Delta meets the barren Sahara Desert. Almost like the Egyptians physically built this gateway between life and death.
And within that gateway, we find one very determined pharaoh.
Yes.
Ramesses II.
Ramesses.
This wasn't just some ruler. This was a guy with a plan to build a legacy that spanned eternity.
Oh, absolutely. And nothing says legacy like Ramesses' tomb.
Oh, yeah.
Over 100 rooms filled with gold, weapons, jewels.
Really?
They even mummified food for him.
Wait, hold on. Mummified food? So they thought he'd be hungry in the afterlife.
That's the idea.
Did they not think that there were grocery stores or something?
Well, to the ancient Egyptians, the afterlife mirrored earthly life.
Ah.
So you pack your tomb with everything you'd need.
Right.
So clothes, servants, entertainment, and yes, even snacks.
I mean, imagine the packing list. It would be insane.
Oh.
Talk about commitment to an extended vacation. But it wasn't just the material stuff, though, right? Wasn't there also the Book of the Dead?
Right.
Which was their guide to navigating the afterlife.
Yeah, it's basically a spiritual instruction manual.
Okay.
Filled with spells and rituals and advice on how to appease the gods and ensure a smooth journey for your soul. Kind of like afterlife insurance and travel guide.
All in one.
Yeah.
So Ramesses II was clearly pulling out all the stops. Now, fast forward a few thousand years. And we find ourselves in the realm of modern psychology.
Okay.
Researchers have come up with some really fascinating theories.
Yeah.
About why we're so preoccupied with death.
Yeah.
What might come after.
And I think one of the most interesting ones is terror management theory.
Terror management theory.
It sounds intimidating.
It does sound kind of scary.
But the concept's actually fairly straightforward.
Okay.
You see, we humans are kind of unique in our awareness of our own mortality.
Mm-hmm.
And that awareness, well, to put it bluntly, it's terrifying.
Oh, yeah, I can definitely relate to that. Just the thought of not existing anymore it kind of sends shivers down your spine.
Yeah.
But how does this terror lead to these belief systems?
So think of it this way. Sheldon Solomon, one of the leading researchers on terror management theory, describes humans as, quote, breathing pieces of defecating meat.
Okay, well, that's a charming visual.
Yeah.
But I guess it gets the point across,
Right.
We are all fragile, temporary beings.
Exactly. And the theory suggests that, we create these elaborate belief systems, including religions,
Right.
to cope with this kind of stark reality. And these beliefs, they provide a sense of meaning and purpose.
Yeah.
It's a bucker against the fear of oblivion.
Yeah.
It's in a way, they allow us to transcend our physical limitations.
Right.
And find a sense of permanence.
It's like those beliefs provide a psychological shield
Exactly.
against the terror of knowing that we're just, breathing pieces of defecating meat hurtling towards an unknowable end. So in a way, Ramesses and his elaborate tomb, were they just a grand ancient example of terror management theory in action?
I think you could definitely say that.
Yeah.
He certainly went to great lengths to manage that existential dread.
Yeah.
But here's where things get even more interesting.
Okay.
This theory plays out in our everyday lives, often in ways that we don't even realize.
Really? Tell me more about how this theory shows up in our modern world.
Yeah. Well, researchers use a clever technique to study this. It's called manipulating mortality salience.
Mortality salience. Basically, they make people more aware of their own death.
Okay.
and then see how it affects their behavior.
So it's like they're giving people a little dose of like existential anxiety in a controlled setting.
Precisely. And what they found is that these reminders of death, they can actually intensify our existing biases.
So if you're already kind of leaning toward a certain political view, like thinking about your own mortality might make you like dig in even deeper.
Almost like clinging to familiar beliefs for a sense of security.
Yeah, that's one interpretation. One study had people read articles that had like pro-US or anti-US viewpoints, and the people who were reminded of their own death, they showed a much stronger bias toward the article that already aligned with their beliefs.
So even our political stances, which we like to think are based on logic and reason,
right,
can be swayed by this deep-seated fear of death.
Yeah.
That's both fascinating and a bit unsettling.
It certainly makes you wonder about the hidden forces that are driving our decisions.
Yeah, it really does.
And it goes beyond politics. Another experiment found that German participants were more likely to favor German products when they were interviewed near a cemetery.
Oh, wow.
Compared to being interviewed like near a storefront.
It's like the subconscious was saying, hey, stick with what you know when you're faced with the great unknown.
Right.
But here's what I don't get.
Okay.
This is all about seeking comfort and security. Shouldn't death reminders make people more cautious in general?
Well, that's where it gets even more complex.
Okay.
Because some studies have found the opposite.
Really?
Yeah. For example, Israeli drivers who considered themselves skilled actually drove more recklessly when reminded of death.
So it's not always about playing it safe.
No.
It's almost like a go big or go home mentality when faced with your own mortality.
Exactly. It seems that for some people, confronting their mortality makes them kind of double down on behaviors that reinforce their identity.
Okay.
Even if those behaviors are risky,
Mm-hmm.
It's a way of asserting their existence even in the face of oblivion.
Like they're saying, well, if this is all temporary, I might as well live life on my own terms.
Right.
So we've got ancient Egyptians building these elaborate tombs.
Right.
Modern psychologists are playing with death reminders.
Yeah.
And all of us are somewhere in between, just trying to figure out how to deal with this whole being alive and then not being alive thing.
And throughout history, humans have come up with some pretty fascinating ways to cope with this very human dilemma.
Okay.
The philosopher Stephen Cave identified 4 main immortality narratives.
Immortality narratives.
These are basically the stories we tell ourselves to make sense of death and find a way to feel like our existence has some kind of, lasting significance.
Okay, I'm ready. Let's hear these immortality narratives.
All right. The first one is the longevity narrative.
Longevity.
This is that classic quest for eternal youth.
Okay.
The idea that we can cheat death through potions, elixirs, special knowledge.
Like a real-life fountain of youth.
Exactly.
You see this popping up everywhere, from ancient myths to today's obsession with anti-aging products. It's like we're constantly trying to outrun time.
Right. And then there's the resurrection narrative.
Okay. Resurrection.
This is the belief in a bodily return after death.
Yep.
This is central to many religions, the resurrection of Jesus being a prime example.
Yeah. The promise of coming back in a recognizable form, that's a powerful concept. It offers a lot of comfort and hope.
Yeah, it does.
The
Next, we have the soul narrative.
soul narrative.
This one focuses on an essence that lives on after the body dies.
Okay.
Whether it's through reincarnation, reaching an afterlife realm, or simply existing as pure energy.
So even if our physical body perishes, a part of us continues.
Yeah, it's like the idea of a soul offers a kind of continuity.
Okay.
And finally, there's the legacy narrative,
Legacy?
which is all about living on through the impact we make on the world.
Right.
Think of artists, writers, inventors, they leave behind creations that outlast them. Or parents who pass on their values and their genes to their children.
Yeah, it's about making our mark on the world, ensuring that our memory lives on even after we're gone.
What's interesting is that Ramesses II, he seemed to be aiming for all 4 of these narratives.
He did.
He preserved his body through mummification. He built monuments to his legacy.
And he even packed his tomb with instructions for navigating the afterlife.
That's a really good observation.
Yeah.
It highlights how these narratives aren't mutually exclusive, We can find comfort and meaning in multiple stories about what happens after we die. And it all ties directly back to terror management theory.
Oh, okay. I see the connection. These narratives, whether we consciously subscribe to them or not,
Right.
they help us manage that fear of death. They provide this psychological buffer, this sense of continuity beyond our own fleeting existence.
Exactly. But here's the next layer. Religion doesn't just offer comfort on a personal level. It also plays a significant role in building and maintaining social order, especially as societies grew larger and more complex.
So it's not just about individuals finding solace in the face of death. There's a broader societal function at play.
Right.
Tell me more about that.
Yeah, so like how does religion go from, being like this personal comfort
Right.
to like suddenly it's this like societal glue?
Right. It feels like a pretty big jump.
Well, think about like the challenges that early humans faced.
Okay.
As societies like expanded, suddenly you're cooperating with strangers.
Yeah.
Just like your close-knit tribe.
Right.
And the old ways of like ensuring trust, like kinship, reputation, those kind of break down.
Right. You can't rely on knowing everyone personally when you're dealing with like a large, complex society. So where does religion fit into this?
Well, this is where the concept of like these big gods comes in.
Okay.
Like these powerful, all-seeing deities who can punish wrongdoing, even if it's done in secret.
I'm picturing like a divine surveillance system.
Right.
Keeping everyone in check. But does that really work?
Research suggests it does.
Really?
Azim Sheriff, a leading scholar in this area,
Okay.
has found that like these big god beliefs, they actually promote cooperation.
Okay.
For example, one study found that people were less likely to cheat on a test when they were reminded of a punishing god.
So even if you're not like consciously thinking about divine retribution, the idea of it can still like influence your behavior. It's like a built-in moral compass.
Exactly. And it isn't just about individual morality.
Right.
These shared beliefs in these like powerful gods, they also helped facilitate trade and cooperation between different groups.
Right.
If you both fear the same god, you're more likely to trust each other, even if you're from different cultures or backgrounds.
Yeah, it's like a common ground. It's like a shared understanding that kind of transcends cultural differences.
Exactly.
But what about the rituals themselves? Some religious practices seem pretty intense. Pilgrimages, fasting, even self-mutilation.
Right.
Why go through all of that?
This is where costly signals come in.
Costly signals.
Think of it like a peacock's tail.
Okay.
It's a burden,
Yeah.
It makes survival harder, but it sends a powerful message.
What kind of message?
It says, look how strong and healthy I am. I can survive despite this elaborate tail.
So the peacock's tail is basically an honest signal of
Yes.
its fitness. But how does that relate to religious rituals?
Same principle applies.
Really?
A difficult or painful ritual, that acts as a costly signal of your commitment to the group.
Oh, okay.
And it's really hard to fake that level of devotion. So it kind of weeds out the free riders, the people who want the benefits of belonging without putting in the effort.
So it's not just about believing. It's about proving your belief through action.
Exactly.
And the more difficult that action, the stronger the signal. And that makes a lot of sense. But, the source material also mentioned that organized religion is declining in some parts of the world. Why would that be?
Well, as societies evolve, we develop new ways
Okay.
to maintain order, create meaning. We have governments, laws, social safety nets.
Yeah.
They fulfill many of the functions that religion once served.
I see.
We don't need, big gods to enforce the rules when we have a legal system.
Right. So as these secular institutions become more and more effective, the need for the punishing God aspect of religion diminishes.
Exactly.
But religion hasn't disappeared entirely, right? What's its role in a modern secular society?
It's definitely evolving.
Okay.
In developed countries. Religion is less about enforcing rules.
Right.
And more about providing a sense of community purpose and spiritual fulfillment. It's becoming more individualistic, less focused on dogma.
It's like the function of religion is shifting to meet the changing needs of society.
Right.
So what does this all mean for us today? We've gone from, these ancient Egyptian tombs to modern psychology labs.
Yeah.
And it seems like the need to believe, it's just deeply ingrained
Right.
in the human experience.
I think the biggest takeaway for me is the power of the subconscious. We like to think that we're, these rational beings making these conscious choices.
Yeah.
But so much of our behavior is driven by, these deep-rooted needs and fears that we're barely aware of.
So in a way, we're all just trying to manage our terror, find meaning, connect with something larger than ourselves, whether that's through religion or philosophy or even just the pursuit of a fulfilling life. It makes you wonder if Ramesses II was just a guy with a really, really elaborate way of coping with those same existential anxieties.
I think that's a fair assessment.
Yeah.
He was, in his own way, trying to make sense of life and death and everything in between, just like we are today.
And for you listening, next time you encounter a belief, whether it's religious or otherwise, ask yourself, what need might this be fulfilling? How does it shape behavior, both for individuals and for whole societies? This deep dive, it's giving you the tools to start exploring those questions. And who knows, maybe it'll even lead you to your own personal Valley of the Kings, a place where you can uncover the mysteries